Mr. Evans?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the spirit of trying to move things forward, what I'm wondering is, one of the things I did is I made it a point to take a look at some of the research at some of the elements that were in other community benefits plan, specifically on the business and the procurement aspect of things. I appreciate the employment side and what you're doing there. Believe me, it's greatly appreciated. I guess what I'm asking you to consider doing is stretching in terms of coming up with a metric that's stated ahead of time for business and procurement. At least consider that. But I will say, I believe in being fair, so I want to put this on the record as well. From what I've seen here and read through here, as well as some of the past conversations, the things that you're doing to improve capacity and capability of our small businesses, to include minority and women-owned business enterprises, should ensure a higher probability of success in terms of producing the ultimate results that we're looking for. But again, I come back to, there may be a level of comfort if we at least consider coming up with some objective business and procurement targets for this document. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Just one thing left from me. I've got to say, I think you guys are going to go do all this stuff. I really do. And I should say, I've seen that in your actions. I've seen it even in the conversations we're having when we disagree. We're all trying to work to make this a great community benefit plan. The following up on what Mr. Evans said about the goals for minority and women business enterprises, and I'm thinking back to, does this comport with the law? And it's kind of maybe a two-pronged question. But my concern is, no matter what you do, if there's not a goal, there are going to be some who feel you didn't do enough.
Right. And
I have a sense in my head, and we've talked about those numbers, I'm not going to throw them out right now, of what those goals ought to look like. So kind of a two-pronged question. One is, the law talks about the benefit oversight committee being able to enforce the plan. Would they, in your mind, is the participation by minority and women businesses an enforceable component of the plan, even though there would not be, or potentially wouldn't be, a goal attached to it? Or is that like, no, we're going to try, but you can't enforce anything there?
I think it's certainly enforceable. There are 11 independent obligations with respect to women and minority-owned business enterprises. The commitment is very substantial. And what I would say, Mr. Hill, is that, as you're aware, the legislation is written that we're supposed to have the greatest possible participation by those segments. And I would say that, with all due respect to Mr. Evans' comment about the necessity for metrics, there are more metrics in this community benefit plan than in any other stadium community benefit plan that exists. So that would be the greatest possible effort that could be made.
Well, Mr. Ventrelle, I think we don't need to get into a semantics argument on that. I don't think I would agree with that. I'm just saying, on that particular point, because there aren't goals in the current agreement, is what without a goal, I don't know what adequate performance is and what inadequate performance is, and that's kind of the question.
Well, there are specific obligations with respect to those entities. For example, if we are not holding pre-bid educational seminars for those entities, that hasn't happened. And as Mr. Aguirre laid out, there'd be a mechanism to submit a plan to come into compliance with that and have to do it. So I think each one of those obligations has a different description associated with it. But to imply that they're passive or somehow not genuine obligations, I don't think is a fair or honest reading of the document.
Your interpretation of my implications is inaccurate. How's that? I'm just asking a question. So what I'm saying is, from a result standpoint, if you come in at 18%, participation from minority and women businesses. How do we think about that? And how does everybody else in the community think about that? And how are we going to pass that on to the Oversight Committee, which my understanding is really a subset of this committee. Is that correct?
I think the Oversight Committee will not necessarily be a subset of this committee. And by subset, I mean the same members of the committee. It's a creature.
It's a creature
yes.
of the Stadium Authority.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Thanks. So, what if the Oversight Committee comes back and says 18% is not good enough? What would your answer be?
The Oversight Committee's job would be to look at the document with respect to the commitments that are made with respect to those entities and see if we're actually doing those things or not. And
but
if we're
results that
doing those things,
so the activity leading to an attempt at results would be scrutinized by the committee, but the actual results would not. Is that?
Well, many of those obligations are to provide genuine opportunity, to provide, equal access to things and to provide equal opportunity there. So if we're not providing that opportunity leading to those results, then certainly a remedy would have to be made there.
Okay. I understand the answer. Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. Mr. Washington?
Stanley Washington, Las Vegas. Calling it like I see it, like I always do. This is a good agreement. It's not complete. A lot of work's been done. Don't want to take my hat off to Mortensen and the people who've been working on this, but we still have a little ways to go. I think that you know that in your heart, Mr. Chairman, as you've made your comments relative to what's going on. So, we are not operating from a 0 point here on diversity. As we know, MGM has been our diversity leader for some time. Yes, I had a little bit to do with that, but MGM, after recognizing what they were supposed to do, went and become the world's leader in diversity. Am I right, Mr. Hornbuckle? And so the idea that we're talking about reaching 15%, MGM in their sleep does that, okay? So let's get real. 25% needs to be that number at a minimum.
Thank you.
10% of that number needs to be dedicated to the veterans, our veterans who deserve to have first right on this thing, okay? So that whole 15% that Aaron Ford brought through, but he didn't want the legislature to go ahead and make any noise, nonsense. So we already know that 15% doesn't get it. For everybody to be included in 15%, that just doesn't make any sense, you know it. So once again, at a minimum, 25%, MGM normally comes in at 30%. Okay, I deal with them on an ongoing basis, whatnot. That's commitment. And now, on top of that, I would want Mr. Hornbuckle to go ahead and share with us the concept of how the concept of getting the small minority businesses capacity to build, as in the $50 million that MGM proposed and followed through with Detroit down there because of the fact that they saw not the capacity, so that they needed to go ahead and do something. So I'd like Mr. Hornbuckle to talk about that because that is progressive. So the idea that we're talking about a fund for capacity building, that's nothing new. MGM's already done that, okay? So that's why Bill Hornbuckle was saying, well, look, we're not going to jump all and down behind 15%. And sure enough, this is a good agreement. The 38% is certainly probably the highest, even though Aaron Ford said he was going to bring us 50%. So let's keep it in perspective, with a goal of 75%. So the 38%, though aggressive, not what Aaron Ford told us in Carson City when we were there, Mr. Chairman, 50%, okay, on construction. Now, on the operations side, 55%, okay, we're basically there. So this idea that we're supposed to be jumping up and down behind the 15% and how aggressive the 38%, yes, but that's still not what the discussion was in Carson City for us not to be bringing it forward at that particular time. Just give me a little history on what was going on. So I also, Mr. Chairman, want to go ahead and thank you for keeping this thing on point in terms of the rules. Obviously, Mr. White does not know the rules. Calling for the question. It's not even on the agenda. He'd be advised to read it, okay? Now, this is this part. Why he's even up there, I don't even know. But you guys got him up there, so you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Washington.
Thank you,
Mr. Collins. There's only one opportunity to speak at the meeting. Ms. Parnelli-Price.
Really? They're not going to let us? I just wanted to say that it's a shame that in 2017 we have to still have minority participation. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, especially I forgot to talk about my mother. She was actually Sephardic Jew Native American. And it is sad to me that we still have this crap. So you have to have people in a document to hire them. Like Tommy White said, he has people that want to work now. Why do we have to have this crap about what you do for Hispanics, blacks, Asian, women, veterans? Our veterans should be number one. I am so disheartened. Sorry, but as a native Nevadan,
I'm so mad I have to think about these black folks. Oh my God. Oh my God.
That in 2017, we still have to have this in document form. It is terrible. It is disgusting, and you all know that it is disgusting.
Mr. Chairman, when
Oh,
I
God.
stayed here earlier, I told you that I was going to stick around because you said that after the program you could talk. Now, here's what I want to say.
Oh,
And
God.
thank you, but here's what I want to say. This agreement, this community benefit plan
Oh,
that
man.
the Raiders have, they have to go back and redo that. Now, what we did, Mr. Chairman, we sent a message to the Raider people and to Mr. Goodell from the NFL. We wanted to have a meeting before we came to this meeting because we knew this community plan would be discussed. So we wanted to sit and talk with them to see exactly what was in it because we were concerned about the historical West Side and North Las Vegas. So we wanted to meet with the Raider family. We wanted to meet with the NFL. And guess what? We have no response as we speak. And so this agreement, and let me thank you for not moving forward with this because this is not going to work. And I can tell you that, and until they sit down with the stakeholders of the community and sit down and get with us and we can work this out, we have a plan. And so until they do it, we're going to have some problems. And I want to thank you all. And Billy, it's always good to see you and the rest of you. And Mr. Watson was right. What the job the MGM did, and Billy was a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other members of the public, we'll move to agenda item 13 and accept a
Mr.
motion
Chair.
for adjournment.
Move for adjournment.
Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous, too.